All right, guys. So we're going to tell a story today. So let's talk about, when you don't feel appreciated, acknowledged, or whatever, when should you bounce out? So you guys know that I had a whole career as a software engineer before this, particularly when I was working at Vanguard, Lockheed, Print Mail Systems, all that other shit, right? So at Vanguard, I was part of the team that built the very first iterations of the Android and iOS apps. And Vanguard, if you guys don't know, is like the happiest place on earth. It's like a fucking cult. Everyone's super fucking happy, smiling. They got daycare, gyms, cafeterias, like laundry services, car services, all that. They're like, it's truly the golden handcuffs. But ultimately, I ended up leaving because of all the stuff that they lacked. And it was just the intangibles, right? It wasn't anything physical, it was just the intangibles and not being recognized or appreciated for my accomplishments. So ultimately, I ended up bouncing out. And, here's my story and why. So seeing as how these were the first iterations of the Android and iOS apps that were built out, they had us working a lot, right? So I was always one of the first people to show up, ahead of schedule, leave after everyone else. And I really put a lot of time and effort into building these things out and taking pride in it. But me and the other new guys on team, we got brought onto a team that had been together, for years and years and years. They had worked at Vanguard for like 15 plus years together. They had the same nannies, lived in the same neighborhoods, went to the same church, Wegmans, all that shit. So it's very hard to integrate and get assimilated into that team, especially looking like me, big black tattoos, all that shit, right? So, I would do everything I could to get recognized, like, hey, I love this project, I'm really working, but they never appreciated the work that me and the other new people did. They would just criticize us for the things that we got wrong. They're like, why didn't you use a recursive method for this? Like, you could have wrote this code and it could have been shorter and reusable and not as verbose, blah, 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 blah. And it kind of sucked, right? And it just really wore us down, but they would routinely praise the people that had been on there, longer, right? They'd, oh my God, you did such a good job, or you did this, or they would, talk about their vacations and talk about their beach house. They talk about all this shit, but what we actually did to contribute to the team. So ultimately, all the new guys transferred out to different teams. I was the last man standing, and because I'm like, I'm going to keep trying, I'm going to keep trying, I'm going to keep trying, because I'm just not that type of person to give up. And then finally, the straw that broke the camel's back was our dev lead, our senior, engineer. This motherfucker criticized me in front of God and everyone else, for, again, not using a recursive method, when I was coding. And I'm like, all right, I've had enough. And at that point, I called him into the office and was like, listen the fuck up, bro. Like, that was fucking uncalled for. You praise everybody fucking else but me and the other new guys who ultimately left. So that's when I ended up bouncing out and I went to Lockheed, where I fit in way better because they like dudes like me. But like myself, you guys might be in a situation where you're at work or in a relationship or in, whatever it is, where you guys are putting in a lot of effort and you're not being recognized for that effort. So again, you have to be recognized for the effort and contributions that you make, whether it's friendships, relationships, romantic, a job, does not necessarily matter what it is. Everyone wants to feel valued. And if you're putting in that effort and not getting recognized, poof, peace out, like a fucking genie. You know what I'm saying? Because that's no way to live your life. Like, you shouldn't sit there and give and give and give and give and give and not get anything in return, right? So, everyone wants to feel that. And I didn't feel that at Vanguard, so I bounced out to Lockheed, and it was a way better situation for me where I could flourish and everything else. And ultimately, it was the best thing that could have happened to me because that's how I was able to start my businesses. I made more money. I was able to do all these different things because I was in an environment that celebrated me and not just tolerated me. So you guys remember that today. Be celebrated, not tolerated.